Ready? Y'all
Yes,
ready?
we are. Yes.
Good evening. If we will, let's call our meeting, March meeting of the Iredell-Statesville Schools Board of Education to order. Thank you all for attending tonight. We've got quite a few presentations to make, and we look forward to having an exciting meeting. We begin our meeting typically with a moment of silence, asking each one to bow and meditate in your own way for the first few moments, asking for guidance in helping us make the best decisions for the children of this school system. So if you will, bow with me in silent meditation for the first few moments. Thank you. Let's stand for the presentation of the flag by the color guard from North Iredell High School. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. We'll continue with the agenda, beginning with the consent agenda. Under administration, we have the budget reduction for 2014, 2015, Ms. Melissa Wyke and Brady Johnson.
Good evening, Dr. Cash, members of the board, Mr. Johnson. We are in the middle of our budget season planning for the 14-15 budget year. And as we begin to plan, we realize that we are still underfunded from where our expenditure levels currently are. So as we start the budget planning process, we are ready to recommend the reductions that you see on the screen in front of you. And I'll let Mr. Johnson speak to them in detail, but we do recommend that we reduce assistant principals' months of employment by 1 month, that they go from 12 months to 11 months. We do anticipate being able to eliminate 3 assistant principal positions via attrition. The instructional facilitators' months of employment, we recommend that be reduced by half a month. They're currently 11 months. Not all of them, but a lot of them are currently 11 months, that would go to 10.5 months. And then another social worker position we recommend to be eliminated, and that is also through attrition. So that's savings of $554,600 approximately. The rest you see there for transportation are estimated savings that we can achieve through routing efficiencies or changes, and then reduced driver time, pre and post route work. So we have total savings of $634,600. Mr. Johnson, would you like to add anything?
Board members, I would just say that we've given this very careful consideration as an administrative team, and there's no cuts on there that we particularly want to make. It's just a necessity for us to live within our budget. As you know, for the last 2 school years, you folks have approved for us to use fund balance to balance our budget. And we've always told you that we would do that for 2 years, but it is time to balance our budget, and as difficult as this is, we just can't find a way to escape it for a 3rd year in a row. We've talked about this in detail at your committee meetings, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have for us. This may not be the end of the cuts. We'll probably bring some more recommendations to you in April, but this is our first round at trying to balance our budget for next year.
Are there any questions or comments about the budget reduction?
Just one question, and board members, and Mr. Johnson, Ms. White, you'll have to forgive me. I apologize for missing the last couple meetings through work issues. We finally got everybody's power back on, so been a little covered up with that. One question about the social worker position, and I know that y'all probably covered this, but how do we plan to cover that area of expertise that we'll be losing?
Well, that will leave us with one, or is it two?
Two.
Two social workers district-wide. So we'll have to rely on the county's Department of Social Services more than we do now.
We had 5 social workers at one time, and those 5 social workers service 17 elementary schools. If you approve this cut, it'll leave us with 2. One of those ladies is a lead social worker. She also does McKinney-Vento, which is our homeless liaison work. The other social worker is really a floater that serves those 17 elementary schools on an on-call basis. When we talked about these potential cuts with the county commissioners a few weeks ago, we did make it pretty clear to them that we would have to start depending on the Department of Social Services for assistance. So when our schools call the Department of Social Services, we'll need for them to collaborate with us and help serve this gap.
I always like to mention, too, that at a time like this is an ongoing battle that we've been playing with every year for the last 3 or 4 years. And over the last 3 or 4 years, we've lost how many people out of the central office area? 375, something like that?
We've lost a total of approximately 350 positions over the last 4.5 years.
350 positions. So when we spend 10 minutes to talk about these reductions, it doesn't mention all the things that have gone on before this that have been reduced. This makes it look like, well, this is a minor thing. These are major items that are occurring here in the lives of these people. Now, it's nice that individuals aren't affected as much, but there's still cuts that are being made in the budget, and it is affecting what we are doing as a system, and it's beginning to show up. So we do this because it's absolutely necessary, not because we want to do it, and we already know for certain that it's having direct effect upon our processes.
And I would like to ask a question too about how prepared is the Department of Social Services? Have we been in communication with them, for picking up the slack and preparing them for working with our schools more closely?
Well, this is not the first year that we've made cuts to social workers. So we've already depended on the Department of Social Services in years past. It's just with one more cut, there will be even more work referred out to the Department of Social Services. We have a good working relationship with the Department of Social Services, and we'll try to increase the efficiency with that. But this work that the social workers do, the work will not go away. And yesterday at our work session, we did point out to you that during this recession, the percentage of children that are living in poverty has gone up our district now is almost 43%. So the need for these workers is there. It's just that we're going to have to find the service in a different venue.
Well, it's interesting, too, when you walk through some of these places and talk to these individuals about an assistant principal or an instructional facilitator or a social worker or a resource officer, and you say that this is going to be reduced or it's going to be deleted, you get almost a solid gasp, like, what, you can't be serious, because they immediately see all that they're losing when we lose these people. So this is not a light thing that we do. I just want to mention those.
On the original list of cuts we were given a month or so ago, it listed a central office position on that. Is that off the table, or you mentioned that there still could be some additional cuts of that?
No, we'll be bringing that to you in April.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you. We'll move on then to the personnel portion of the consent agenda. I have Dr. Lassane here to speak about items B, C, D, and E, the acceptance of resignations, retirements, rehires, terminations, and leaves of absence, the acceptance of classified personnel, approval of licensed personnel, and approval of administrative appointments. Dr. Lassane.
Dr. Cash, Mr. Johnson, members of the board, you have had the opportunity to review the March personnel report. In addition to that, based on some of the conversation from our CAL meeting, I have some additional information just to share with you regarding exit interviews. Please note one caveat regarding this information is that we do not yet have all of our exit surveys, and an individual can choose not to complete an exit survey. But based on the ones that we have received, 11 classroom teachers have completed those exit surveys, and their primary reasons for leaving are in two categories: family responsibility and childcare, and the amount of the state salary. Those were the two most frequent responses. In addition to the 11 classroom teachers, we do have completed surveys from 4 district EC personnel, 1 instructional facilitator, 2 assistant principals, and 1 media specialist. And I have more granular information regarding those if you would like, but just based on that conversation, I wanted to share that information. Are there any additional questions regarding the March personnel report?
Comments or questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We have the minutes from February 3rd, Committee of the Whole, and February 10th, Board of Education. You note that we've had an edited copy of the Board of Education minutes placed at the desk. So if there are no additions or other corrections to these minutes, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the consent agenda items and these minutes from February.
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Okay, we'll move on to the non-consent agenda. We have our first portion under the recognitions, the student video of Cottle Creek's elementary school recognition. Mr. Johnson.
Thanks, Dr. Cash. Before we show our video, let me give you a little bit of background about this. Tonight, we would like to recognize and honor 2 of our students from Cottle Creek Elementary School, and they're seated right over to my right here, Ethan and Hudson Fox. These students embarked on a national level competition several months ago. The assignment was to produce a video that explained the importance of technology at their school. The competition was sponsored by President Obama as part of the 2014 White House Film Festival. Our students, sitting right here in our corner, submitted a 3-minute video which they produced at their school for this competition. The purpose of the video, again, was to show how technology is used specifically in the 1st grade at Cottle Creek, especially in the area of STEM education: science, technology, engineering, and math. I'm happy to report to you that our students received an honorable mention from more than 2,500 entries from across the United States. So tonight, we'd like for you to watch the video, and then Ethan and Hudson, we'd like for you guys in just a minute to come up front here. We've got your certificate. And is Mr. Foster here, our principal? Okay. Ms. Fox, you might want to just come to the microphone and share a minute about the work that these kids did. If you'd like to, just come to the microphone. And guys, why don't you come on up front with your mom? World famous filmmakers.
Like many parents over the winter break and being cold and not able to go sled riding because it wasn't cold enough for snow, my children were looking for something to do. So quickly, as all good parents, we go to the web, try to find something creative, and we stumbled across this contest. And it was just, we thought it would be just a fun adventure for us to kind of do. But what it really did was it really opened our eyes as parents when we started talking with the school. Mr. Foster and the teachers were excellent. They welcomed us in. And they wanted us to come to these classrooms, and it really engaged our children in our household in really learning beyond what was required in a curriculum. So as you mentioned, it was about the technology in school, but we used our computer to create a rap. So they used some music. We did videoing, we did editing, we did lots of kind of creative things, and it was just really fun to go to the school and even see the classroom embrace it. Within 30 minutes, all the students knew how to do the rap, and they asked a lot of questions. In it, of course, we talked about going to the White House, what that would be like, what it's like to be the president, and of course, our conversations have continued along that path. In fact, on the way up here, we were talking about, again, when was Abraham Lincoln alive, and what kind of inspiration he must have been at that time. So it's been really an exciting event, and the teachers were just really great. Even when President's Day came around, they incorporated, again, more conversations and discussions in the classroom, and we hope to encourage the school board and everyone within Iredell County to continue to push for and include technology as a way and a creative outlet for our children to learn. So with that, we thank you for allowing us the opportunity to come in and share it with you all.
And can somebody hit the go button on that video, and let's watch this.
Yeah, they can show. They showed me a couple things.
Feel free to dance during the video if you're so
Good
moved.
morning, boys and girls. Today, we're going to have an exciting day. We're going to learn about tree frogs, Abe Lincoln, and volcanoes. Yay!
Kaboom, I'm Ethan, Huts and Fox. We're in first grade, yeah, we like it a lot. Learning every day, it's the Call Creek way. We're starting different things, thinking out of the box. With technology, my brother and me. We're in by science like biology. With math, got a question, just go on the net. You can find our cool game, it's your best bet yet. I can practice, I can play, new stuff every day. Share it with my friends, it's the Call Creek way. Yeah. Yeah, Call Creek. Yeah. Yeah, Call Creek. For homework, did a little science project at home. I'm flipping a ribbon, skipping and volcanoes. It's all good in our hood. Engineering understood. My mom sent the video to my teacher from her phone. Our teacher's real smart, got a smart board too. And don't forget our website, it tells me what to do. What's that, teacher? Did I get me a?
Of course you did. It's the Call Creek way.
We're making, we're tinkering, we're doing critical thinking. 47 years ago, take a web tour to see Lincoln. Yeah, yeah, Call Creek. So hey, Mr. President, don't you wanna see all the cool stuff we do in NC? A computer lab just on the iPad. We're bringing up our scores with technology. I said once or twice, hear what we say. I wanna do more. It's the Call Creek way. Yeah, yeah, Call Creek. Yeah, yeah, Call Creek. With math and science, engineering too. Technology is fun with all the things we do. Making songs, doing art, it's all a part how Call Creek is making students get smart. Yeah, yeah, Call Creek. Once, twice, hear what we say. We're gonna do more. It's the Call Creek way. It's the Call Creek way. It's the Call Creek way.
Guys, if you'll step up front here, Mrs. Bonham is going to present you with a certificate tonight.
Is there a dad too?
Yeah, we can make this a family affair if Dad and little brother want to come up.
Our next item is the Community Schools Award, Ms. Susie Weiberg.
Well, thank you, Dr. Cash, but I don't really want to follow that. That's worse than the dog and the pony and everything else, so that was wonderful. Tonight we have a couple of recognitions. The first one, it just surprises me. You just never know what moves people to action. For Mr. Chris Shoebridge at Coldwell Banker United Realtors, it was seeing a student without a jacket on a very cold January morning this year. Now, some people might look at that single student and say, you can't get kids to keep their coats on. He has a closet full of coats, can't keep them on. But Chris looked at that, and he organized a coat drive for Statesville High School at his office, Coldwell Banker United Realtors. Within just a few days, he pulled together more than a dozen coats. Several days after that, the other agents in his office decided they needed to be involved with the needs of our students, and they called me back to Coldwell Banker. And this time, there were 2 huge bags of coats, jackets, scarves, and gloves, and a large bag filled with personal care items for the students that the office staff at Statesville High School said in particular that they needed. Over the years, Coldwell Banker has been a very strong partner with our school system, especially participating in our school tools drive in August. And they always are very responsive when a specific need arises. We are very grateful that these folks notice a student walking to school on a cold day without a jacket. So here tonight, there's a whole team of people from Coldwell Banker, and if they would please come up to the front. I was going to ask Mr. Rogers if you would mind. The certificate is over on the corner. There's one for Coldwell Banker United, and also one for the special compassion of Mr. Chris Shoebridge. So, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rogers, and thank you, everybody. Well, speaking about social workers, National School Social Work Week was celebrated last week, and our own social workers thought it would be very fitting to honor 2 groups that have stood at their sides for many years. The first one is Lambda Mu. Now, Lambda Mu is a service and friendship sorority. Their local membership stands at 22 business and professional women. Since 2006, they have raised over $15,000, mostly through their famous yard sales, which they have graciously given to our social workers to use for families. shoes, alarm clocks, medication, glasses, clothes, uniforms, lice treatment kits. These are just a few examples of what Lambda Mu has been able to provide our students and families. In May of 2013, the members planned a Shoes for Schools walk, which raised $3,300 in a single event. On May 3rd of this year, the 2014 Shoes for Schools walk will be dedicated to the memory of deceased members of this sorority, and they're hoping it will be even more successful than last year's walk. Our social workers are able to be responsive to the needs of families because of the efforts of Lambda Mu and the funds that they provide. And another very strong partnership exists between our district and the Statesville Women's Club. The ongoing Michelle Freeze project encourages club members to donate food to give the children at 2 of our elementary schools for the weekends. This was named for our own Michelle because she introduced the club to the plight of hungry children in our community. The club hosts a scholarship contest for high school seniors. They served refreshments to the elementary participants in the Battle of the Books and donated $100 to help pay for the local winning team to go to the next level of competition. The Women's Club sponsors Read Across America at Cloverleaf Elementary School, which was canceled Friday due to snow, and also provided strong support to Statesville Middle School in their attempt to win the $60,000 Follett Challenge. Without the community support, where would we be? And where would the support for our children and families come from? It is an invaluable service of love and caring that we receive from these very strong community partnerships. So, Dr. Cash, I was going to ask you first if we invited up Lambda Mu, and there is a whole bunch of beautiful women here, to have their beautiful picture taken, and then the Statesville Women's Club. Is that okay? Is that okay? So, Lambda Mu. And I wasn't sure who was here from the Women's Club. Oh, there they are. More beautiful women. There you go. The house is full.
Okay, next we have the Statesville Middle School Art Department recognition. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Dr. Cash, members of the board. You have a memo at your place tonight that has the names of the students that we'll be recognizing, so if you'll pick that up. And Susie Weiberg, or Susie? Susie, are you gonna help present this in Mr. Jones's absence? Yeah. Board members, tonight we would like to recognize the honors 8th grade art class at Statesville Middle School. These students in the last 2.5 years have received, and this is not a typographical error, 231 awards and recognitions on the local, state, and the national level. Let that number sink in, 231. These students have absolutely transformed their school by making it a true center for the visual arts. Their teacher, Mr. Byron Jones, who could not be with us tonight because of a death in his family, was our ISS 2011-12 Teacher of the Year. And his passion is just absolutely contagious for the visual arts. So please, as these students come up, we'd like to recognize each of them individually, and we have a certificate for each child. So, Mr. Rogers, this is in your district here. If you don't mind, we'll let you present these certificates as Susie reads their names. And kids, if you'll all come up and just hang around, we want to get one large group picture.
I promise I will. I'd also like to say that Mr. Jones and his students are so responsive to the community. There's artwork hanging all over downtown. There's artwork at Race Street in the hall to the new finance office conference room. Anytime the cash click office, when they opened up, their walls were just a palette. And I called Mr. Jones, and he had student art over there within a week. So he and his students are just doing remarkable work.
And it all starts with the art display that's at the Statesville Middle School, which is an absolutely unbelievable thing when you look at the walls and the ceilings at Statesville Middle School that have been put up there by students. This is fantastic.
It is, it's fabulous. They're just, I'm sorry? You need to see it. Okay. Victor Aguilar Renteria, Estefania Alvarado, Lillian Andrade, Caroline Beard, Anthony Benavides, May Bragau, Kara Briggs, Kayla Briggs. Oh, here we go. Yay, yay. Stay right there, guys. Paisha Bright, Stephanie Castro, Anna Kreider, Tiffany Dishman, Destiny Ferguson, Summer Hagerman, Monica Hedden, Jessica Hernandez, Audrey Paley, Juan Perez Martinez, John Rogers. Look, he's already there.
What? Wait a minute.
Anthony Salkill, Alina Student, Faith Zong, and Seng Yang. I'd also like to say Seng Yang is the student who designed the storyboard for our artwork that is going to Washington, D.C., actually our artwork that is already in Washington, D.C., waiting for our students to get there. Seng did that. So you guys are it. You are representing your entire group. Good job.
Next item on our agenda is the Healthy Kids Learn Better Fund recognition. Ms. Laura Marino.
Hi. I'm a school nurse in the district. There are 18 school nurses with the 36 schools we have. And our job is we remove the barriers to learning. And sometimes we find that very difficult when we have children that fall through the cracks of Medicaid or don't have vision insurance or have dental or walking around with cavities and can't see a dentist. So I was in talk with Karen Curley and the nurses. Wouldn't it be great if we could have a fund for the school nurses to help these students out that are in need? So long story short, I joined this wonderful group called Be the Miracle. It's located in the southern end of the county. And these women get together quarterly to choose a nonprofit agency to win, to be donated a $10,000 donation. It has to be a nonprofit organization, and I thought, wow, this is worth a shot. Why don't I get together this fund, and then we would establish it, and maybe, luckily, I would be chosen one day. Well, that day happened, and previous to that, somebody had heard me speak, somebody in the Be the Miracle group, and she was so taken by what I had discussed and what the needs of our county entail that she wanted to first make a donation of $5,000 to the fund, and then a month later, I was chosen as the winner to Be the Miracle. Literally, this all just happened a few weeks ago. So 3 weeks ago, we had $15,000 in the fund, and then another board heard about what we were doing and donated another $5,000. So we now have $20,000 to offer the students of Iredell County with health care needs. So I can't thank people enough for how kind their hearts are. So I'd like to invite Be the Miracle up and Deanna Sherman up to, and I'd like to invite the nurses up, and if they could bring the checks. I know she has.
I'll do a little fan.
So these are $100 checks, and you're good at math. $10,000. So this one is Miracle.
And given to something that would fall through the crack.
Our next item is athletic recognitions. Mr. Richard Armstrong.
To Dr. Cash, members of the board, Mr. Johnson, we would like to recognize and congratulate the following high school athletes, teams, and coaches for their outstanding accomplishments this school year. For basketball, and if Ms. Bonham will take a picture with them when they get the certificates, and Mr. Todd is going to help me with the certificates. For basketball, from North Iredell High School, getting her 1,000th plus career points for 2013-14, Mariah Johnson. And just wait there, Mariah. And from West Iredell High School, getting her 1,000th career point from West Iredell, Elizabeth Webb. And we have several cross-country members, and if we could at the end, Mr. Brady will take a picture with them when we get everyone up. For cross-country, from Lake Norman High School, this young man was the Conference Player of the Year, State Qualifier, and All-State, Patrick Sheehan. Another state qualifier from Lake Norman High School, Jack Mastreda, Andrea, excuse me. That's not it. Just turn them around until we find them. There it is. Also from Lake Norman High School cross-country team, a state qualifier, Melissa Zamidi. Another state qualifier from Lake Norman High School, Reagan Porterlance. And from Lake Norman High School, state qualifier, Sarah Cahill. Now, did I miss any of the Lake Norman cross-country team members? Okay, all right. So what I'm going to go back and do is call all the names that I didn't call the first time. Is Holly Bailey. She was Lake Norman High School Conference Player of the Year and state qualifier. State qualifier, Wes Anderson. State qualifier, Colin Emerson. State qualifier, Kevin Craig. State qualifier, Wyatt Fedorka. State qualifier, Ty Sauerbray. State qualifier, Zoe Bazanson. And state qualifier, Elise DeVoe. Rachel. Now, did I miss anyone? Okay. Rachel Veloci, state qualifier. So that's everyone. That's everyone.
They make the girls run up there.
I told Ms. Anthony that Lake Norman High School would show up in large numbers. They always do. Appreciate it. And the last names were really tough. I studied this whole weekend. For diving, a state qualifier for diving, Clara Dykeman from South Iredell High School. At this time, we'll go to swimming, and if Mr. Kelly, if we have members from the swimming awards, if Mr. Kelly would take a picture with them when we get everyone up. For swimming, Conference Coach of the Year for the 4th consecutive year, Mr. David Tucker from Lake Norman High School. .200 freestyle girls relay team, South Iredell High School state qualifier Lexi Hawks, Allie Bender, Mia Murphy, Megan Bussey, and Kristen Kirk. If any of the members of the 200 freestyle girls relay team from South Iredell High School, if you would please come forward at this time. The 200 freestyle boys relay team from West Iredell High School state qualifier. If these members would come up, Joe Bassett, Corey Johnson, and Austin Morrison. Okay, Mr. Kelly, if you'll stay, we've got more swimmers. We've got more swimmers. Okay. One more group. Okay, also for swimming, Shane Wicker from North Iredell High School, 9th place state championship, 50 freestyle, 9th place. Also, Shane Wicker had 10th place state championship, 100 fly. From Lake Norman High School, a regional qualifier, Patrick Swartz. Is he here tonight? Also from Lake Norman High School, Christian Wheeler, regional qualifier. From Lake Norman High School, Conference Player of the Year, Austin Hill. And I was just making sure, also Conference Player of the Year from Lake Norman High School, Kaylin Fetter. Thank you. Next, we'll go to football, and if Dr. Cash would stand and when we have a photograph. From Lake Norman High School, Conference Player of the Year and All-State, Josh Ladowski. Also from Lake Norman High School, All-State, Corey Joyner. I'm not sure if he's here or not, but also from Lake Norman High School, All-Region, Patrick Ryan. Next, we have golf, and Mr. Gallion, if he would take a picture, if we have someone here. For golf, from South Iredell High School, state qualifier, Morgan Deal. Okay, and from Lake Norman High School, we had a state qualifier, Catherine Carson, and also Lake Norman High School Conference Player of the Year, state qualifier, Samantha Vaudry. For soccer, South Iredell High School Regional Soccer Coach of the Year, Coach David Basinger. All-State from South Iredell High School, also county record of 135 career goals, Omar Solis. All-Region from Lake Norman High School, Logan Frey. All-Region from Lake Norman High School, Jeffrey Angelino. Okay, now we move to tennis. And if, Mr. Shoemaker, you'll have the last two groups, tennis and wrestling. For tennis, from Lake Norman High School, Conference Coach of the Year, Leslie Carroll. State qualifier from Lake Norman High School, Allie Bates. And regional qualifier from Lake Norman High School, Hallie Lavieri. Are there any more tennis players that are present? Our last group, thank you. Our last group is wrestling from West Iredell High School, second place state championship, Mr. Peyton Shuford. From South Iredell High School, third place state championship, Matthew Insogna. Third place state championship with 100 career wins, Joseph Lancaster from North Iredell High School. He said he'll take it. Thank you. From West Iredell High School, fourth place state championship, Dylan Lambert. From Lake Norman High School, All-State, Logan Pavia. From Lake Norman High School, All-State, Chase Komanik. All-State from Lake Norman High School, Eddie McGrail. All-State from Lake Norman High School, Ryan Devlin. State qualifier for wrestling from Lake Norman High School, R.J. Kleiniger. State qualifier from Lake Norman High School, Zach Reynes. State qualifier from Lake Norman High School, Anthony Pirelli. State qualifier from Lake Norman High School, Patrick Dabiero. From North Iredell High School, 100 career wins, Ryan Carcaham. 100 career wins from North Iredell High School, Mitchell Hampton. Mitchell was also a state qualifier. For Lake Norman High School, 100 career wins, North Iredell High School, Travis Price.
Congratulations again to all the athletic award winners. Appreciate the work that you do and the representation you give to our school district when you're out, especially in the other districts and the other schools participating. Next, we'll move on to item F, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association recognition. Mr. Johnson.
Dr. Cash, members of the board, it's very befitting tonight that we did all of these athletic recognitions because one of our own, David Rothwell, we just received some exciting news that we'd like to share with you. Mr. David Rothwell is not a stranger to you. He is a veteran staff member of the Iredell-Statesville schools that has devoted his entire professional career to the students of our community. He has served this community as a teacher, a coach, assistant principal, and lastly, our district athletic director. During his distinguished career, David received numerous awards and recognition for his dedication and commitment to the students and the athletes that he served. Even in retirement, his work continues to be recognized and honored. Recently, we received word that later this month, our own Coach Rothwell will be inducted into the North Carolina Athletic Directors Hall of Fame. Please join me tonight in honoring Coach Rothwell for this outstanding accomplishment and milestone in his career. We're going to ask that all of our board members go out for a picture, please. There's a certificate there, Dr. Cash.
Next, we have the North Carolina School Board Association Board of Education certification recognitions. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Dr. Cash, members of the board. As you well know, the state of North Carolina requires that all school board members receive a minimum of 12 hours of continuing education credits annually. This year, we would like to recognize 3 of our board members that have exceeded that requirement. Tonight, we're going to recognize the following: Mr. Chuck Gallion, a Certificate of Merit; Mr. Charles Kelly, a Certificate of Advanced Achievement; and Mr. John Rogers, a Certificate of Advanced Achievement. This recognition is sponsored by the North Carolina School Boards Association Academy for School Boardsmanship. So, gentlemen, if you could make your way to the front, please. And Dr. Cash, would you like to present their awards to them? And we'll get a quick picture.
Stand back out of this picture. That concludes our recognition portion of the meeting, so we'll move on now to the non-consent agenda. First item, and this will require a vote of the board, the Mcguire Nuclear School Evacuation Plan. Dr. Hargrave.
Dr. Cash, Mr. Johnson, members of the board. Last Monday at the Committee of the Whole, Mr. Mike James came before you and presented the Mcguire Nuclear School Evacuation Plan. And because this is part of our safety and security plan, I won't go into a lot of details on the plan itself, but what he shared with you was that every 2 years we are required to have an audit of our Mcguire evacuation plan, and also that we have 2 schools that are located actually in the evacuation zone, but we have chosen as a district to have a plan that includes all the schools that are located on the southern end of the county. Since we have chosen to do that, our evacuation site in our original plan was South Iredell High School. And because of the growth of South Iredell and the fact that if we had to evacuate all those schools, we couldn't get everyone on the campus of South Iredell, we are asking to amend our evacuation plan and include the CATS as an additional evacuation site. We need your vote on this so that we can submit this to the state to get it approved.
We discussed this in detail last Monday at the Committee of the Whole meeting. I'll ask now if there are any questions or comments about the details of the evacuation plan that we need to review.
Dr. Hargrave, we went down a couple years ago. They still allow us to come down as a board or as a group, you and I and Mr. James. You still do that annually?
Yes, they will allow us to come down and tour the facility and to talk safety.
I've been. It's a wonderful thing. The other board members hadn't been. It's a good trip. So,
Yeah, they offer a very good safety program.
Any other questions or comments?
You know, the plan that was presented to us last time talked about all these places and where they would go and how they would go and all that sort of thing. Now, this isn't on either one of these sheets. Is there something else that outlines where they go and how they go?
Yes, and again, because that is part of our safety and security plan, we didn't put that on the,
Oh, that's, okay.
for tonight.
I understand.
But
Thank
that
you.
was for your purpose.
Thank you. Make a motion to accept this evacuation plan as being presented.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Hargrave.
Thank you.
Next, we have a Senate Bill 402 presentation. Ms. Lana Drinkard and Ms. Natasha Brinkley.
Good evening, Dr. Cash and members of the board, Superintendent Johnson. We came to you last week with some new information about Senate Bill 402, and we recognize and respect the decision you made. We did want to share some further information and urge maybe some more discussion on this. And with that, I want to turn it over to Lana Drinkard, a colleague of ours, a colleague of mine. Go ahead.
Thank you. Chairman Cash, Superintendent Johnson, and members of the board, and also supporters of public education. I want to preface this by saying that everything that I have seen tonight at this meeting gives further impetus to this discussion, because you have a system, a school system that is functioning at a very high level under even very difficult circumstances, having lost more than 350 positions. And it is, we're kind of at a critical point. It's like we're standing on the edge of a precipice. We have pulled so much away from public education, and I am urging you tonight to consider all of the facts surrounding this law and perhaps be willing to take a very brave position. So I would like to start just by sharing some of the facts that I shared with you at the working session and remind you that I gave you all of this information in writing that was prepared by our attorneys in the Advocacy Center of NCAE. The first thing I want to mention is that career status or tenure for K-12 public educators is nothing like tenure for higher ed professors. There is kind of a general misconception of what it is and what it means. It is only a due process. It is very similar to the due process that is in place for all state employees in North Carolina. And this particular law seeks to take it away only from teachers. It does not seek to take it away from any other state employees, thereby creating a system of inequity in and of itself. The second thing I want to say about that is state employees are able to earn their due process by serving 2 years of probation. Educators serve 4 years of probation. Any time within that 4-year period of their employment with the school system has the right to simply say, we think we can find someone better than you. They don't have to give reasons. They don't have to go through any process. So it's a very arduous process as it is. There are other things. This law was actually proposed in the North Carolina Senate, and it never made it out of committee. It was never debated on the floor of the Senate, nor was it ever debated on the floor of the House. And those of you who are social studies folks or historians know that our laws are created through public debate. In that arena, there is the way to bring forward information about, for instance, things like what the long-term impact of this law might be. And that never occurred. So you might ask yourself, how did we get this law, since it didn't go through the normal lawmaking process? Well, the way it happened is within the Senate made it part of their budget proposal. And our budget process in North Carolina is such that the governor puts out a proposed budget, the House puts out a proposed budget, and the Senate puts out a proposed budget. And then the leadership of the House and the Senate and the governor have a conference committee that works to work through the differences and to put together one budget proposal for the state. So that hand-picked conference committee, and I'm going to refer you back to your Senate Pro Tem President Phil Berger, your Speaker of the House Tom Tillis, and your Governor Pat McCrory, as having all worked behind the scenes in this process, made this piece of legislation part of the budget proposal. And so when the budget came forward in North Carolina, the budget is not amendable. So there could be no discussion on the House floor and amending the budget. It is an up or down vote. And so at no time was there ever an opportunity for anyone to share real information and have it come forward about what the long-term impact of this law would be. Those are all extremely important facts of how the law was passed. Then I think we have to look at the whole picture, because we have talked about this in many different formats. But the state has not told you how to come up with your top 25% of teachers. It hasn't told anyone how to do it. In fact, the bare minimum standard that was set by the state, for example, Wake County said 91% of their employees meet that standard. I would be interested to know how many of your employees meet that basic standard. I would dare say that you're in the 90% also of your employees that meet the basic standards set by the state of North Carolina. And then they have left it to every local to make some determination. And while I commend your school system, Dr. Lassane and Superintendent Johnson, for the way in which they included teachers at the table, at which they had these conversations both at every school and then sought input and have put together as reasonable a plan as they, I think, feel like they can come up with. And I am not in any way trying to say that their plan wasn't just that, the best that they could do with a horrendous law. What I want you to look at and think about just a little bit is the impact of this law. First of all, we aren't in a factory. We are working with students from all kinds of situations and all walks of life. And it is not our goal to reach some of them or to educate some of them. It is our goal to reach all of them and to educate all of them. And so when any school system, let's say not you, when any school system begins to say, this is the best teacher in our school system, this is the next best, this is the next best, what happens to the collaboration and the sharing of ideas and the working across boundaries that we have spent the last 15 years putting in place, that in Iredell-Statesville is producing some of the best results you have ever had in the history of this school system? And ask yourself, above and beyond that, what happens when I'm a parent in the Iredell-Statesville school system? And let's be honest, my only real concern is my children. Why would I accept any teacher other than the best teacher? Why would I? Ask yourself the kind of havoc that is going to wreak on your day-to-day operations. Let me take this a step further. There is also the problem of recruiting and retaining good teachers. And when you are not competitive salary-wise, as we are not competitive in the nation. The last 2012 put us at 46. NEA says based on the current things they're receiving from each state, it looks like we'll go to 48th in terms of pay. We are not even competitive with our surrounding southern states. We cannot compete salary-wise with a single state that touches our border. We hear over and over $15,000 differences, especially at that 10 to 15-year range where a teacher is really coming into their own. They have the good preparation. Many times by then they have their master's degree and national board certification and the experiences that allows them to be the best they can be. They can cross almost any border and make $15,000 more. And they can cross almost any border and have due process rights in place. So ask yourself what this is doing to public education as a whole. Now, I think that Guilford County has done us all a great favor. And I brought forward the information that I thought you might not know, that 3 of the school board members in Guilford County are attorneys, and that the superintendent is an attorney. And Guilford County has said, we will not follow this law and we will file a lawsuit because we believe it is illegal. It has been done in an arbitrary and capricious manner. And if you look at the fact that no two systems are implementing it in the same way, you will see what we mean when we talk about arbitrary and capricious. If I am one of your best teachers, and for some reason I sign a contract with you all, one of these 4-year contracts, and my husband gets transferred to Guilford County, the first thing that happens is I no longer have a contract. I don't have a contract with Guilford County, and I don't meet the basic provisions for getting one because I haven't been there for 3 years. So good teachers can be punished for things beyond their control when this law is implemented. And school systems, even though I truly believe in all of the school systems that I work with, have labored under trying to devise a fair and reasonable system. I believe that irreparable harm is going to come to any school system that fully implements this law. And now Guilford has given you a way to say, of course we will implement the law as soon as we know that it is legal. The day that the courts in North Carolina rule that this law is correct, we will go with our plan and we will implement. But I urge you to delay any implementation until that lawsuit is settled, because the harm that will be done to your system as a whole will take many more years to repair, even if the law gets changed, than I can imagine. I also want to take you to one more place when I talk about career status. Teaching is a very rare occupation, and I proudly served as a teacher for 14 years, and I have spent the last 16 years working for NCAE. I have spent 12 of those years working in your schools with your employees, and I have been a part of seeing how well they have implemented the policies and laws that have been in place with career status, with teacher evaluation and the new process that was implemented a few years ago, and with becoming a system of continuous improvement and using real data to make real decisions. Well, part of what I wanted to give you tonight is real data. Because the fact is that our country was founded on civil disobedience. And there comes a time that the best leader is one who doesn't do the easy thing, but one who does the right thing, whether or not anyone else does it with them. And I listened at your last board meeting to you all talk about the importance of integrity and openness of your actions. And I think it's very clear that our legislature has not passed the standard that you upheld as being appropriate. So I am asking you, for the good of the Iredell school system and in celebration of the high level of performance you are currently achieving regularly, that you do the brave thing and say, we will wait until the courts decide this issue before implementing, and we will proceed with the way we currently do business. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I have a few moments to address? And I understand this was an agenda item, not a public comment period, so we can give some feedback. Thank you, ma'am, for your presentation tonight. I appreciate you being here and your passionate plea. Senate Bill 402 is the law. Is it a perfect law? No, it's not perfect. Not many laws that get passed are perfect. But let me remind the board that it was a law that was passed by the duly elected and sworn General Assembly. Were the tactics that Ms. Drinker described wrong? I can't say that they were wrong, but they were tactics that were used when the other party was in control of the General Assembly for the past century. So the argument that, we're going to blame the governor and Senate Pro Tem and those folks in Raleigh, I don't buy. Is there a remedy to change this law? There is, and she mentioned it, through the judicial process. And that process has already been started. The legislative process is another way the law could be changed. The point I want the board to understand, and the public as well, is choosing not to follow the law is a violation of our oath of office. When we raised our hand and placed the other hand on the Bible, we said we would follow the Constitution and follow the laws of the United States and North Carolina. This argument about civil disobedience, I understand, and there's been good things that's happened in our country in the past through civil disobedience, but we're being asked to decide what laws we want to follow and what laws we don't want to follow. We teach our kids in civics class that we follow the law. In order for a civil society to exist, we must follow the law. I don't particularly care, and I think the majority of this board, probably all of us, we don't care for the calendar law, but we follow it. There's provisions in the anti-bullying law that I don't like, that I've discussed on this board before, but we follow the law. I could go on and on. The sex education statute, I don't particularly like everything in it, but we follow the law because that's what it is. We're being asked to endorse an idea that we as a board can subjectively decide what law should be followed. And I'm not going to do that. If we failed to obey all the laws that we didn't like, we'd have chaos and we'd have anarchy. And I don't think that's the message this board wants to endorse or follow. Let me make this perfectly clear, too. The NCAE is a political organization. They won't tell you this, but they're advocating for teachers at the same time. Their top executive compensation goes up every year while teachers have been flat. So I'd like for you to keep that in mind, too. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, since this is an agenda item, I'd like to make a couple of comments, too. I do agree with many of the points that Mr. Shoemaker makes. Some of them I don't, and we respect each other for that. I understand the lawsuits are coming forth. I think they should. This bill gives me much heartburn. I am going to seriously consider making a motion of civil disobedience in this particular matter. But I'm not going to make that motion until I give my fellow board members the courtesy of us having the opportunity to debate it among ourselves. I think we should debate it.
Let's debate it tonight.
And I have been told by 2 legislators who should be ashamed for telling me this, that they don't read resolutions when we send them down there. So if they're not going to read resolutions that the Teachers Association sends or the School Board Association sends, if they're going to just throw them in the trash, then we need to find another way to send a message. And I think, Mr. Johnson, you're bringing us a couple of resolutions next month to go ahead and talk about and possibly sign off on and send down there, and then may or may not be read. So I just think I want the teachers to know that we understand, we hear you. Politics ain't simple. It ain't simple. And the points that Mr. Shoemaker makes about obeying the law, I agree with. I think without obeying the law, there is chaos and anarchy. So something like this is a very serious matter if you step out of the obedience of the law, and I don't take it lightly. But this Senate bill and the way it came to be, the backroom shenanigans, give me heartburn. So I plan at our next meeting, I don't want to keep us here all night debating it. I don't think we're ready. I think we all need some time to cogitate on it and think about what we've seen and heard and everybody's position. But I do want us to debate it, and if it takes me making a motion to get that debate to take place, I'm prepared to do it at our next meeting. So,
Mr. Chairman, I've been sitting here doing a little bit of math, and I think as of tonight, I have been a member of NCAE for 45 years. I disagree with Mr. Shoemaker with the fact that it is simply a political organization. I can remember the time when practically every teacher in North Carolina belonged to NCAE. I do not know where the teachers of the state of North Carolina would be without NCAE. And I deeply appreciate all that they did for me during my 35-year career. And as a classroom teacher, I have never advocated breaking the law, but there comes a time when you have to take a stand. I do think that there are people sitting up here on this board that do not believe in tenure to begin with. And I think that needs to be made obviously very clear. But I can remember in the early 1970s, you could be fired for the way you wore your hair or the church that you attended or whom you voted for. The only thing I'm asking this board to do is to consider, on behalf of all of our classroom teachers, the idea that we, first of all, we support them. You know, and sometimes we talk out of both sides of our mouth. We say we support them, and then when we have an opportunity, we don't do that. And so I'm like Mr. Brader, and I'll be more than happy to second his motion. The only thing I'm asking the Board of Education of the Iredell-Statesville Schools is to support the people who work with thousands of children each and every day. And we support them, and first of all, we protect them. They deserve due process. They deserve the right to be heard rather than what happens, they're railroaded out of town for some, many times, an unprovable reason. And I could go on and on and on tonight, but I am experiencing more than just heartburn. I am truly angry about this, and I'm hoping that the board's going to do the right thing. Thank you, sir.
And I would just like to say, you know, I did talk to Senator Curtis last week about this bill. You know, the way sausage is made is not pretty. You know, for the past 100 years, we have had a Democratic legislature and a Democratic Senate, and changes have happened within the school system over 100 years, and honestly, the Republicans have had little or no voice. When the Republicans took over the North Carolina legislature and the Senate, and now the governorship, they saw it as an opportunity to fix what they see is a broken school system in North Carolina in general. So they took this opportunity, you know, is it fair, is it right? But they made all these sweeping changes all at one time. You know, when I talked to Senator Curtis, I told him, I said, you know, we are a great school system here in Iredell-Statesville, and I feel like we do everything right. We are really committed to using our resources to the best that we can. I think if these changes could have come about a little bit at a time, it would have been a little more palatable, but I feel like the General Assembly and the Senate felt like this was their time, you know, to make the changes that they've been waiting for 100 years. Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it fair? You know, the way the 10-year law was passed is not precedent. It has been done before, you know, in similar legislature with the Democratic North Carolina legislators. You know, I think the 10-year law is a law that is past its prime. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we have little time with our children to spend with them to get it right. If you have to spend 3 years with a teacher, coddling them and teaching them how to do it right, when a principal knows right off the bat, this teacher is just not going to make it. I think it makes clear business sense, you know, to if they're not the ideal teacher, you know, let them move on. Let them find a career that is